Before we dive into one of the wildest stories of World War II survival, make sure to subscribe to Strange History and hit the bell icon. Every week we uncover the forgotten tools, strange inventions, and human ingenuity that shaped history in ways textbooks never mention. Now, imagine this. It's winter, 1943. Snow falls across the Balkan Mountains and temperatures plunge below freezing. You're a Yugoslav partisan, part of one of the most resourceful resistance movements of the entire war. You're surrounded by Axis forces on all sides. No supply drops, no ammunition convoys, no rations, just a rifle, a few scraps of gear, and the wilderness itself. So how did they survive? How did they keep fighting for years, cut off from factories, medicine, and modern logistics? The answer lies in something few people have ever heard of, the Yugoslav Partisan Field Survival Kit. This wasn't an official military issue from any government. It was a handmade, improvised system of survival, a collection of tools, remedies, and field tricks passed between fighters, often built from scavenged materials or natural resources. Each kit was unique, but the essentials were the same: fire, food, medicine, and morale. Let's open it, piece by piece, and see what kept one of Europe's most remarkable resistance forces alive. So, matches were rare, and honestly, lighters were basically priceless. That's why the partisans built their own fire-starting kits from scraps of steel, flint, and pine resin. They'd go out and collect pitch from tree bark, mix it up with animal fat, and make a slow-burning starter that actually worked even when it was wet. Just a single spark from their makeshift striker could ignite resin-soaked cloth, producing a flame in blizzards where, regular matches would totally fail. These fire kits weren't only for warmth, they were used for survival signaling, cooking, and even sterilizing wounds. A flame could literally save a life or, give away a position, so learning to light one silently and without smoke really became an art. Tucked inside every survival kit was what fighters called the forest ration, just a small pouch with dried herbs, roots, and wild greens. The Yugoslav landscape was, honestly, packed with edible plants like nettle, garlic, and wild thyme. The partisans would dry and powder these into what they called green flour, which they could boil into a pretty crude but nutritious soup. They also carried roasted acorns and beech nuts, which could be ground into coffee substitutes or flour for flatbread. Nothing was wasted. Even tree bark could be stripped, boiled, and eaten when food ran out. In the absence of rations, this forager's pouch kept whole brigades alive. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. So, here's the thing. The Yugoslav mountains were full of rivers, but also disease. The partisans, they improvised water purifiers long before portable filters were even a thing. They used layers of charcoal, sand, and fabric, all stuffed into hollow tin cans, or even spent artillery shells. Water was poured through slowly, filtered of debris, and then boiled in metal cups or over coals. Some folks even carried these small packets of crushed charcoal mixed with salt to drop into, questionable water sources. This simple method, taught by peasant villagers, actually prevented countless cases of dysentery and typhoid. Alright, so, every Yugoslav partisan field survival kit included a small cloth medic roll. These were usually handmade from torn uniform fabric or maybe a piece of linen. Inside you'd find needles, a few safety pins, and some herbal remedies. Garlic paste, was used as an antiseptic. Dried chamomile, it helped reduce infection. And believe it or not, spider webs were applied directly to small cuts. This folk practice worked surprisingly well because spider silk promotes clotting. Morphine or bandages, those were luxuries. Instead, medics brewed painkillers from willow bark, which is rich in natural salicin, and disinfectants from boiled nettle or pine sap. The ingenuity of these field remedies blurred the line between medicine and survival instinct. Partisan scouts didn't carry paper maps, they just didn't last long in snow or rain. Instead, they used cloth maps, hand-drawn with charcoal or ink, and waterproofed with wax or even animal fat. Each map was unique, marking not roads, but, landmarks, rivers, twisted trees, ruins, and caves. These were guerrilla maps, lightweight, foldable, and invisible to enemies. Some were stitched into jackets or hidden inside bread loaves when couriers traveled through enemy lines. A scrap of cloth could lead a lost fighter back to his unit, or save an entire battalion from ambush. While many fighters carried captured German bayonets or knives from fallen enemies, the partisans favored homemade blades. Blacksmiths in hidden mountain forges repurposed farm tools into small, versatile knives that could cut wood, skin animals, or even repair gear. Some knives had hollow handles, storing sewing needles, small hooks, or tinder. Others had improvised can openers forged from broken rifle parts. This knife wasn't a luxury, it was the beating heart of the partisan's kit, a single object with a dozen uses. So, lastly, everything came together on the belt, the Yugoslav Partisan Belt Survival Kit. It wasn't just to hold up trousers. Inside pouches or hidden seams, soldiers carried a sewing needle and thread, a few matches sealed in wax, dried bread or sugar cubes, a compass or a magnetized needle and cork, and sometimes a small piece of mirror for signaling. Each belt was different, crafted by its owner. Some even had tiny secret notes, orders, or small gold coins sewn inside the lining, a little insurance for escape or bribery if captured. The Yugoslav Partisan Field Survival Kit was more than just a set of tools. It was a philosophy. It embodied self-reliance, creativity, and the belief that survival was a shared skill, not a possession. These fighters didn't wait for resupply, they became their own supply line. When Allied officers joined the resistance later in the war, they were honestly stunned by how effective the partisan system was. Entire armies struggled with frozen weapons, broken trucks, and just constant logistics disasters. But the partisans, armed with little more than knives, herbs, and pure willpower, survived off the land and kept fighting. They proved that, ingenuity could actually defeat industrial might, that a handmade kit, born out of desperation, could defy modern warfare itself. So, the next time you think of survival gear, remember, the first true survivalists weren't explorers or adventurers, they were the Yugoslav partisans, and their field kit still remains a symbol of endurance carved from chaos. If you enjoyed this dive into forgotten wartime ingenuity, go ahead and give this video a like, share it with your fellow history fans, and subscribe for more deep stories from strange history, where the past is never ordinary.